All right, hello everyone. Welcome to my channel. This is an educational channel. We cover various topics, but we focus in on them for quite a while, mostly of the esoteric and obscure variety. Today is the 140th video that we're doing on the reciprocal system of theory. And the reciprocal system of theory was devised by Dewey B. Larson back in the 20th century. He died back in 1990. And he wrote many books. It's a system of theory, meaning that it can be applied to any subject. It's not just a theory, it's a system. And if you understand the system, then you can apply it to whatever subject you like. Mr. Larson applied it to many different subjects, and we're looking at his one of his books that came out in 1979 that is called Nothing But Motion. And this book covers a lot of physical concepts, physics, and a little bit of organic chemistry, and is the first of a 3-volume set. The second book is called Basic Properties of Matter, which is mostly on chemistry, and then Universe of Motion, which is on astronomy. We're gonna try to cover all that without getting too technical. Some of the astronomy stuff is a little technical. Now, the basic idea behind Larson's system is that the universe is a universe of motion, not a universe of matter, and not a universe of energy. In fact, the Einstein's equation, E equals mc squared, sheds light on this, because that equation is really saying that energy and matter can be converted one to the other. And that the conversion factor is the speed of light squared, c squared. And if energy can be converted into matter and vice versa, that proves that neither one of them can be the most fundamental thing. There has to be something underlying both of them. And for Larson, that is really the C part, that is motion. So the universe is made out of motion, and matter and energy are really just kinds of motion. And motion, because other people have come up with that before, a universe of motion, but Larson distinguishes himself and his theory, his system of theory, because he defines motion differently as the relationship between space and time. That defines a general reciprocal relationship between space and time, hence the name, the reciprocal system of theory. It's pointing at the general reciprocal relationship between space and time. Now that's a little abstract and hard to understand, but the basic idea is just like any type of reciprocal, a fraction. 2/3, the reciprocal is 3/2. Space and time are basically just inversions of one another. They both have the same qualities, but they present them in kind of the opposite order. So time and space ultimately do not really exist. They only exist together in motion. So motion is always a relationship between space and time. Either time or space is the numerator, and the other is the denominator. So, and they are, just as space has a coordinate aspect. Space is 3 or more dimensions, X, Y, Z coordinates. Therefore, time also has that same quality of 3 or more dimensions. Larson calls that coordinate time. And time we know to be progressing, always getting in later and later and later. And therefore, space also has that quality. And Larson calls that clock time and clock space. In clock space, space is always progressing flowing. It's always getting farther and farther apart. And this was observed experimentally by the Hubble telescope way back in the 1920s. It observed that all of the distant galaxies are moving away from each other. That is the progression of space, or clock space. Space and time are also only in discrete units. There's no continuum there. There's no, I guess you would call, spectrum. There is a discrete minimum unit of space and time, and there are only integer multiples of those. Okay, now we're in chapter 2 of his book here, Nothing But Motion, and he's still talking about just formulation of the theory. And he was just mentioning how, you know, this is like the theory that all the scientists have been salivating over for. You know, they've all been, it's the Holy Grail. You know, it's like, it's the one theory that can unite all these different disparate fields of science. It's exactly what they've always been waiting for, and it's right in front of their face, and they're ignoring it entirely. And rejecting it outright, and in general ridiculing anybody who, who brings it up. So that's how we roll around here. So we're going to take over right here. So here come the words of Dewey Larson. Of course, the theoretical development has not yet been carried to the point where it accounts for every detail of the physical universe. That point will not be reached for a long time, if ever. But it has been carried far enough to make it clear that the probability of being unable to deal with the remaining items is negligible, and that the reciprocal system is, in fact, a general physical theory. The crucial importance of this status as a general physical theory lies in the further fact that it is impossible to construct a wrong general physical theory. At first glance, this statement may seem absurd. It may seem almost self-evident that if validity is not required, there should be no serious obstacle to constructing some kind of a theory of any subject. But even without any detailed consideration of the factors that are involved in the case of a general physical theory, a review of experience will show that this offhand opinion is incorrect. Construction of a general physical theory has been a prime goal of science for 3,000 years, and an immense amount of time and effort has been devoted to the task, with no success whatever. The failure has not been a matter of arriving at the wrong answers. The theorists have not been able to formulate any single theory that would give them any answers, right or wrong, to more than a mere handful of the millions of questions that a general physical theory must answer. A long period of failure to find the correct theory is understandable, since the field that must be covered by a general theory is so immense and so extremely complicated. But thousands of years of inability to construct any general theory are explainable only on the basis that there is a reason why a wrong theory cannot be constructed. The reason is easily understood if the essential nature of the task is carefully examined. Construction of a general physical theory is analogous to the task of deciphering a very long message in code. If a coded message is short, a few words or a sentence, alternative interpretations are possible, any or all of which may be wrong. But if the message is a very long one, a whole book in code would be an appropriate analogy to the subject matter of a general physical theory. There is only one way to make any kind of sense out of every paragraph, and that is to find the key to the cipher. If and when the message is finally decoded and every paragraph is intelligible, it is evident that the key to the cipher has been discovered. The possibility that there might be an alternative key, a different set of meanings for the various symbols utilized that would give every one of the thousands of sentences in the message a different significance, intelligible but wrong, is preposterous. It can therefore be definitely stated that a wrong key to the cipher is impossible. The correct general theory of the universe is the key to the code of nature. As in the case of the cipher, a wrong theory can provide plausible answers in a limited field, but only the correct theory can be a general theory, one that is capable of producing explanations for the existence and characteristics of all of the immense number of physical phenomena. Thus, a wrong general theory, like a wrong key in a cipher, is impossible. Okay, now I'm going to just push back a little bit on this because I think Larson does get into a little bit of dangerous territory when he says that his theory is correct and it is the only theory that can be correct. Because, you know, if you are coming up with a key to the cipher of a very, very lengthy and complicated subject or generalized everything, then obviously there is no other way to decipher it. And I think I don't believe that that's true. It strikes me as the same kind of argument that the Christians will give where they say that, you know, Jesus Christ is the only way that you can get to heaven or whatever. You know, it's the only answer. I think that it is one answer, but that, you know, maybe somebody on the other side of the globe might have a different answer, and it might come in a different form. And I think, you know, when you see that Larson approaches this in a manner of, you know, the universe of motion and universe of space, reciprocal relation between space and time, that's, you know, a very obviously valid way to look at it, you know, if it's actually coming up with these answers. But, you know, it could be a different language that also comes up with very good answers. You know, you may be able to approach this geometrically, or you could approach it arithmetically, you know, or you could approach it with some kind of abstract, you know, kind of a spiritual code breaking. There could be, I mean, I feel like the only word that he used to describe the ability of there being more than one cipher, key to the cipher, is preposterous. And that just kind of turns me off in terms of, you know, there's, you know, Larson's theory itself is called preposterous with no evidence by his critics. And I think he's just slinging that word around, preposterous. I just would say never say never. You know, the fact that you might have a theory that's correct is great. And I want to study your theory and learn it to the best of my ability because it comes up with answers. But I don't believe that that automatically means that there is no other way to do it. It might be in a language that you're not familiar. You know, it might be in, you know, I mean, if you look at you know, Buckminster Fuller's 4D synergetic geometry, you know, maybe he's using an extra dimension, but he's still arriving at theory of everything type answers for and being able to apply them to every situation. So I just don't really think that Larson's kind of orthodoxy here is warranted. I I I totally believe that Larson's theory provides correct answers in all situations, but I do not believe him. I do think he's mistaken when he says that that means that his theory is the only theory that can be correct. I think that's pushing it way too far. It could be right, but it doesn't mean that it is right. That's just what I'm saying. And the evidence I'm showing for that is that the only word that he can come up with is preposterous. That just means, you know, I've rejected it out of hand and I haven't examined it thoroughly. Okay, back to Larson. The verification of the validity of the theoretical structure as a whole that is provided by the demonstration that it is a general physical theory does not eliminate the need for checking each of the conclusions of the theory individually. It is not unlikely that those persons who carry out the process of development of the details of the theory will make some mistakes. But the fact that the individual conclusions have been derived by extension of a correct general structure of theory creates a strong presumption of their validity, a presumption that cannot be overcome by anything other than definite and conclusive contrary evidence. Hence, as conclusions are reached in the course of the development, it is not necessary to supply positive proof that they are correct, or to argue that the case in favor of their validity is superior to that of any competitor. All that is required is to show that these conclusions are not inconsistent with any definitely established facts. Recognition of this point is essential for a full understanding of the presentation in the pages that follow. Many persons will no doubt take the stand that they find the arguments in favor of certain of the currently accepted ideas more persuasive than those in favor of the conclusions derived from the reciprocal system. Indeed, some such reactions are inevitable, since there will be a strong tendency to view these conclusions in the context of present-day thought, based on the no longer tenable concept of a universe of matter. But these opinions are irrelevant. Where it can be shown that the conclusions are legitimately derived from the postulates of the system, they participate in the proof of the validity of the structure of theory as a whole, a proof that has been established by two independent means: by showing that this is a general physical theory and that a wrong general physical theory is impossible, and by showing that none of the authentic deductions from the postulates of the theory is inconsistent with any positively established information from observation or experiment. Now, I agree with what he's saying there, that the general physical theory, that a wrong general physical theory is impossible. But other people do have general physical theories, and they just are couched maybe in terms that are unfamiliar, but they could still be right. You know, I just really it gives me a lot of pause to think that he's saying that his theory is the only theory. Another example that I could think of is just like Taoist theory, where you have yin and yang. You know, yin and yang can just be space and time, or time and space. You know, you substitute one for the other. So, and I think other people have had that exact same idea, you know, where, you know, even if you want to go to Hegelian type of theory, you know, where you have, you know, two polar opposites, I don't necessarily think it has to be space and time. It could be two other things that are the opposites that you use to create your structure. And the Taoist yin and yang, I think, is just an example of that. So I push back when Larson says that is wrong, because it's not the theory that I came up with. And since I am able to come up with all the answers with my theory, that means that every other theory is wrong. Okay, back to Larson. The second method of verification is analogous to the manner in which we go about verifying the accuracy of an aerial map. The traditional method of map making involves first a series of explorations, then a critical evaluation of the reports submitted by the explorers, and finally the construction of the map on the basis of those reports that the geographers consider most reliable. Similarly, in the scientific field, explorations are carried out by experiment and observation. Reports of the findings and conclusions based on these findings are submitted. These reports are evaluated by the scientific community, and those that are judged to be authentic are added to the scientific map, the accepted body of factual and theoretical knowledge. Okay. I think we're going to stop there and carry on. I think we're going to finish this chapter here tomorrow and move on to the next chapter, which is called reference systems. Okay, so thank you for tuning in. And we will resume again tomorrow. And, check us out then. And have a great day.